and in hip hop circles, biting is still something that is addressed. Maybe not as much as it used to be. You don't get the beat down for biting someone's style these days. Do you know what I'm saying? But what I want to say is that you click onto Snapchat and you use Snapchat and you click on your face and you can augment your reality, give yourself bunny ears, and when you open your mouth, blah, and like the tongue comes out and all that, right? Then you want to see what's going on Instagram, so you go on Instagram and you decide to post a story, and lo and behold, here is also another function to augment reality. Now, there's lots of loopholes in copyright, yeah? And maybe technically, and we could have an expert talk about this, but just from what I've seen, technically, that augmented reality is not copyright. What's copyright is the algorithms that create the different augmented parts that you can add to yourself, like bunny ears. But even if the bunny ears are also found in another app, right, the coding for it is unique. So it's not the same thing technically. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I want to say is that if that's occurring on a social media basis, where there's like identity being stolen, identity being stolen, then you need to really be careful that that doesn't influence you in your real life. Why? Because we're here on this planet to be ourselves. We're here to learn about what it means being yourself. Now, if Lamarok here got all his chiseled features gleaming, had the perfect skin, had the friggin' the best abs in the bloody world, yeah? Right? Friggin' beautiful hair, saying he's a billionaire, the idea of success, then I wouldn't be myself, really, you know. Now sometimes we got to do some things that we don't want to do that it kind of affects us. It affects us who we are personally, and a lot of people do this every day in their jobs, yeah. But it's a means to an end, hopefully, you know, that you're not caught in a trap of degrading yourself constantly. And I'm not saying, just in jobs, because it definitely happens to a lot of people in jobs. Not every job, obviously, but it can happen in relationships. It can happen in your day to day. It can even happen in the society and the culture that you live in, right? But now relate that back to hip hop. This is the thing, right? When you understand the history of hip hop comes from a group of marginalized people, from low socioeconomic backgrounds, yeah? So if I can paint a picture for you guys, imagine being in a post-apocalyptic setting, right? Where, there's rubble everywhere from, knocked down buildings and burnt down buildings. There's danger around every corner. There's gangs, there's criminals, there's all sorts of crazy shit going down. And, there's not much money, there's not much scenery. It's like desolate. It's just, kids, people that live there, they're a product of their environment, right? But nothing will ever quell what's within their hearts and who they truly are. And all people seek connection and seek joy, whether it be through good or bad means. They seek this. It's It's human nature. It's inbuilt into our wiring. So take in the fact too that these people in the Bronx were from particular backgrounds, Afro-Caribbean, Latino, you could say, but there were also people that were from Europe, who all have of European descent, and some were natives to the United States, let's just say it was multicultural, right? Everything stripped from them, quite naturally, they created what you could say like a neo tribe, yeah, like through parties, through block parties that they created. That was just a sort of a natural, organic occurrence of the neighborhoods, yeah. They decided to hold parties to celebrate life, as opposed to being real depressed and dreary at their surroundings. No, there's light in people, and this light in people made them create parties to enjoy the miracle of life, right? And now, within that, certain systems organically came into place, right? With the b-boys, the rappers, the DJs, the MCs, the graffiti writers. It was all about getting up or getting out or being out for fame, yeah? Some of these terms are actual hip-hop terms that come through the history of hip-hop, but they were all happening there in the 70s, yeah, in that part of New York, right, where people were trying to create an identity, It's trippy to think that there can be a ghetto in a first world country, but that's the reality of life. And so, when you're from nothing, right, the only thing that empowers you is when you give yourself an identity that might be larger than life, right? And gives you the strength to face the challenges that are in front of you, to face life, yeah? And through that identity, you then are able, or you are enabling yourself to climb through the thick and thin of the bullcrap around you. So in my case, I'm actually more of a shy, introverted person. Yeah, like I grew up that way. Like I grew up like just being quiet and watching other people do their shit. And if other kids wanted to play with me, then I would play with them. I wasn't the kid to go, hey, why don't you come play with us? Not until much later, like, but at my core, I'm shy, yeah. But then through my teenage years, I've learned about dance, and then I learned about creating an identity, and then this enabled me and empowered me to become the person that I am today, And it also drew from my insecurities as a child, It drew that out and made me stronger, okay? And that was an identity I created, and I was helped and guided and coached along the way as to how to do that, right? So in those early days, back in the day, identity could be created right across the spectrum of self-expression, yeah? So all of a sudden, I was wearing this kind of beanie, as an example, yeah? I was wearing these kind of glasses because I felt like they were fresh, yeah? I put a hoodie underneath, my other top, just to give it that flip, yeah? I use these colors, I put, as an example, yeah, as an example, like this is an example of hip-hop etiquette, fashion. I put fat laces on my tennis shoes, you know what I mean? Because the normal shoelaces weren't cool enough, yeah? And then all of a sudden you get this attention, right? Similarly today, like when we get likes and shares on, social media, and how that affects the dopamine in your mind, yeah? It's a biological thing. People need that, yeah? So we're talking about a low socioeconomic people with nothing, to their name, and locally they yearn for this attention, this there's a longing for a connection, right? And they did it through things like fashion, through the activities they did, like dancing and singing, yeah? And they did it in a way where communally they celebrated life through song and dance, which is a very, very important part of the human condition, yeah? It's very important that there is self-expression happening there, yeah? Because human beings need to express. And then what we're facing today, or what I feel like I'm witnessing around me, is that there's a homogenization of people. That now it's not, oh, that's Lamarok from 3038, who wears the fat laces, oh, and those are the street masters. Those are NASA's kids from Limbs to Rhythms, and they're killing it on the dancing tip. There's this sort of multiculturalism and these, awareness and acceptance of like different groups and being different, as opposed to being the same, is slowly disappearing. It's more about, and it's always been a case, I think, with mass society, with the masses, is like they'll put down something that's different. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that we should actually be encouraging independence, differences, looks, yeah? And the way we can do that is by respecting the things that allow people to create an identity for themselves. And that's why old school fuckwits like myself have an issue, right? We have a massive, massive issue with people biting shit. With, the whole capitalization and globalization of our culture, yeah? Or appropriated culture, so to speak, yeah? Like, like, like we had to create this fashion, yeah? We had to stick our neck out amongst the masses and look different from the rest. The true meaning of being a hipster, yeah? Right? And we did it for a movement, we did it for a cause, we did it to empower ourselves, we did it to enable others, we did it to express, we did it for the love, yeah? And this is why I think people need to be aware as to why it is hard to approach people who know about hip-hop or who know about a certain culture, yeah? In a place where we feel entitled to receive everything for free, I think what's much, much more important, is that we realize we are not entitled. We realize that we need to find ways to connect with other people instead of just taking something like hip-hop, for example, or fashion, or the latest styles and trends, that maybe, there's something offensive about doing that. Like what if all of a sudden, you grew a pigtail, shaved your head in front, friggin', made your eyes slanty, or if you painted your face in a dark tone, yeah? Like, that's racist, right? So, pull that back a bit. What if you just appropriated, like, the fashion sense of some of these cultures? You might be criticized, or you might not, there's something wrong with that, I think, yeah? And I think that awareness and respect needs to go back out. Because essentially what you're doing is, when you're biting shit, you're removing the one thing. You're removing the one thing that gives a person their strength, their own identity, their own personal identity. Then you bite that, you just totally rip that shit off and you claim it as your own, and you didn't even put the hard yard into like trying to craft that for yourself. You're doing not only a disservice to the people who have created this with pride and heart and honor and joy, but you've done a massive disservice to yourself, because you've just actually, you look in the mirror and what do you see? You see the other dude that you copied. Yeah. And maybe that's your way of connection. Yeah, there's definitely psychological, you know, processes going on there, that you want to look like like a famous star or whatnot. Yeah. And that's part of your conditioning as a person. Yeah. That's part of informing yourself of what's cool and what's not, right? But you always got to flip it, guys. That's a hip hop thing. You got to flip it. And then you got to flip it to the point where you've done it enough times that you can come through and really have an original sense of style. And then what you're projecting out to people, right, on a realer level, right? And people are starting to do this more, yeah? A lot more people are starting to do this, which is good. It's fantastic. But maybe, they're unaware of like how this is already being done, and how we should be humble, and how we should show respect to those guys, and how we can then draw so much more richness from the past and infuse it into our lives for the future, for the next generation to carry, yeah, to hold, to receive, yeah, is that you start to become more and more yourself. You project that to people, yeah. You're already experts at doing that with your social media, yeah, right? But I think you need to be more aware of the importance of not biting. You need to be aware of the importance of putting in the hard yard to make yourself you. Anyway, that's all from me. This is Lama Rock signing out. Peace.